Ms. Schofield can't be here tonight. She's very sorry for not being able to be here, so I'm going to be running things this evening. If everybody could please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. The next item on our agenda is public comment. We do have two people who signed up for public comment tonight. The first one is Linda Ramachaitis. So you can come up to the podium and let us know what you have to say. No, nothing to push, just make sure you speak close to it.
You don't have to push it.
Nope.
Hi, I'm Linda Ramachaitis, as most of you know. I had something prepared. I was going to save it for a better audience, but I'll just run with it. I have a lot of macaroons. It just seemed to suit the purpose. So, you were seeing, considering all the concerns parents and teachers of the district have concerning the problems occurring at both KMS and Ucole School, that there would have been some solution put in place by now. There's been a lot of solutions discussed, a lot of things talked about, a lot of things written down, but nothing tangible has happened yet. We haven't seen any tangible results that have actually worked. So I wanted to propose a rather simple solution. Perhaps Dr. Andre and Mrs. Center, our two top administrators, could put their boots on the ground and maybe move their offices from the Ivory Tower on State Street over to Ucole and KMS. I'm sure they could find a little bit of space to occupy a desk for a week or two. Because there's nothing better than actually seeing rather than listening to reports. We all see that with our eyes. We don't hear so well with our ears all the time. To me, it seems like a good solution. And it has to be for a week or two. Standing at the door greeting students doesn't cut it. It just doesn't. Speaking, going in the buildings for a few minutes, hi, how are you, walking in class, talking to the teachers, I'm here today. They've all been forewarned that you're in the building, so everybody's kind of on guard. It's okay. Doesn't give us boots on the ground. I have no more pages. So I'm sure that Mr. Simmons could find us some space. Because, you know, walking the walk is so much more important than talking the talk. Right now, you're all talking the talk. You're talking pretty well, but you're not walking it. The principals and staff are there every day trying to make a real difference in the lives of kids. The kids are there every day trying to learn while enduring many obstacles. With the amount of money we're paying to our top administrators, it would seem to be much easier to actually observe in person the problems everyone's struggling to understand and solve. How can you offer a solution without being there to see what's really happening? We all know you have years of academic experience. That's why we put you in place. That's why we asked the school committee to hire these people. But education doesn't come close to observation. You need both. So please consider getting your boots on the ground in our battlefield. As a little aside, John, I saw an interesting Facebook post from you today. I'm taking it out of context, but I'm sure you won't mind. You were responding to something you had shared. And your quote was, we have to say, how can we help? We need to get to the the root of what they're experiencing and do the best we can for their sake and their futures, I'm ready to pitch in. My question is, how many of the rest of you are ready to pitch in? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Macedo. Ms. Brenda Vega.
Hi, my name is Brenda Vega, born and raised in Bristol. I've got 2 girls in the district, 4th and 7th grade. I've been blessed to never have to fight for the rights of my children to obtain a fair education or to fight for an IEP or a 504 plan. I didn't have to think about this because I've trusted in the district to have the best interest of our children. And for professional people in this district to be honest with us as parents as to what our children need to learn and most importantly need to succeed academically to the best of their ability. I beat myself up for putting my full trust in the district. I hope you are all aware that we are not going anywhere for a very long time. And you need to prove to all of us that you do have the best interest for these kids. I started talking to more parents and teachers, and I attended my first school committee meeting in October. I honestly wasn't even aware of these meetings took place prior to that. I'm completely disgusted how untrustworthy the district is at this point. Parents have to literally fight for their child's rights. Education is not a privilege, it is a right. And it is the school committee's and the entire administration's job to ensure that every child's right is not being infringed upon. We can all sit here like most and continue to play the blame game. Blame the parents, blame the teachers, past school committee members, and the district, or we can get things accomplished moving forward. School committee, can you ask yourself these few questions, and I hope you will all look into them. What is the process for a teacher who identifies a child with an issue? And what are the steps taken to make sure these children get the help they need? As of right now, some parents do not know what to do. They are not informed of what the steps are and what they need to do to get these children the help they need. And others have been fighting for up to 5 years, just to get their child tested and the help they need. Do we all not realize they aren't getting a proper education? For 5 years, up to 5 years, they're not getting a proper education. Do we not realize this is how it's affecting the teacher's ability to properly teach the curriculum, which is now affecting every other child in the district? Have any of you gone to every school and talked to teachers to find out how many students have issues and see for yourself how many are actually in the process or already have an IEP or 504 plan that needs it? The parents I've spoken to have been fighting for their children and have been denied by our testing and refused help. Outside testing has to be then requested, which most people don't know, for their children to get the help they need. Some parents will trust that denial, hoping their child gets through it feeling defeated. And others refuse to settle for this denial and are continuing to fight. My point is, why would anyone be denied, especially when a professional psychologist finds something? Because that has been the cases in some instances that I've dealt with myself. So when are all of these plans for the future going to actually get put into action? And when and how can all of us know about it when they do? Because it's great to have a plan on paper for all to see and be convinced, but reality is the most important is to implement the plans in a timely manner, and the time is now. Not wait till summer, not wait till next school year like some of the issues have been pushed off and ignored, and not in a few years, but now. So what do we all need to do to make this happen? We're here, we're missing time out with our children, I'm missing out on overtime to support my family, but we're here to do this. If we all are here for the same reason we say we are, for the best interest in education for all children in our community, then let's get it done. Let's do it. Enough with the promises, and how about some action that we are aware of? I'm pretty sick of hearing all these great ideas on paper and not knowing what's actually being done. Why is it all a big secret? I thought we were in this together. And why aren't people being responded to right away on issues? Seems like things are being ignored. Why is everything always prolonged until the media gets involved or in hopes people will give up or forget about it? There are so many unanswered questions, and I wish there was a way we can all get some answers. I will end with this for all of you to think about. If any of your children had any issues, behavioral, bullying, or educational in any way, and you were being ignored, how would you handle it? Would you stop? Would you give up? You wouldn't stop until you got an answer, would you? Would this be acceptable to you in any way? I don't think so. Because how you feel towards your own children should be how you make things happen for all children in this district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Very much appreciate the public comment, and although we don't respond because it is not an item that's on our agenda to discuss, definitely will be considered, and we would also, I'm sure, I speak for myself, and I think for everybody else in the school committee, that we'd be happy to have individual conversations with folks as well. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes for the March 25th, 2019 meeting. Could I get a motion?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. And tonight's agenda focus is a presentation on making learning personal through real-world experiences. I believe that's going to be a presentation that's headed up by Superintendent Andre. We look forward to what you have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Ramos. I'm really excited to present this presentation tonight in conjunction with some of our high school teachers, Mr. Wayne Lieber and Ms. Maureen Gauthier. We're going to chunk this presentation into elementary, middle, and high school, but mostly concentrate on the high school because I really want to showcase and recognize the work that these two great educators have been doing at the high school over the course of the last year. So I'm going to go quickly through the first part of the presentation. Also, Tom Driscoll is going to join me, as well as Ms. Santa. Tom, just right before. So Tom's going to give us a little background on work to date around deeper learning.
Good evening, everyone. So I'd just like to kick this off by saying that we've been spending the last few years researching what deeper learning schools across the nation, particularly those that are most successful, are doing right. We've been doing that through action research, through our personalized learning cohort, and also through site visits and connections with other districts from around the country. Actually, one of them on there, Montour Public Schools, you can see it has like the Spartan helmet. They're actually a co-member of the League of Innovative Schools that we've been working with quite a bit. But what we've seen is that through a lot of these schools, actually through all of them, there's one common element that gets students to deeper learning experiences. And that's every one of them has students engage in some type of real-world, authentic experience. That learning is not isolated, it's not just happening in the classroom, that they're getting kids out into the field and they're working on real-world problems and trying to come up with solutions to them. And a lot of the research is pointing to the fact that engaging them in those experiences are giving them an opportunity to build higher-order critical thinking skills, complex communication skills in ways that really aren't replicable in a regular traditional classroom. So with that in mind, we're going to show some of the different programs that we have here across our three schools that replicate some of these deeper learning practices that engage students in real-world learning.
So I think Tom just clearly articulated why real-world learning. And just to reemphasize, real-world learning encourages teamwork and collaboration, develops critical thinking, decision-making based on real-world context. Students and teachers learn from community experts with a sense of purpose. Students engage in authentic work with a real-world purpose and audience. It addresses access and equity, providing students with experiences that develop academic, social, and emotional skills. Ms. Sander at this point is going to talk about our fourth grade program and creating vibrant learning environments. As you know, our fourth graders are all taking part of the Sale Bristol Warren. And again, redefining what do we mean by schooling. It's just not from 8 to 2:30 within the brick and mortar of our school buildings, but also our classrooms extended into the community.
Thank you and good evening. So I'm going to talk a little bit about SAIL Bristol Warren, our 4th grade program, and then I'll share a little bit about the middle school, some real world learning going on there, and then turn it over to the high school. So I'm sure that you're all familiar with the 4th grade SAIL program that we were able to run this year. That was through a grant from our partners, Herreshoff Marine Museum and the Rhode Island Marine Trades Association. So we're very fortunate within this community to have such wonderful partners that are willing to work with us, and it was a great experience for our students to experience the integration of their science content within the context of sailing, and lessons were developed around our science curriculum so that they could experience that, working with our 4th grade teachers to develop those lessons. We are going to be starting up again for the second half of this program, the end of April, and it will run for another 6 weeks. We're also looking at some fundraising and initiatives. We've written a grant with the Herreshoff Marine Museum to look at funding for next year, but our goal is to have it embedded into the curriculum so that it's sustainable year after year. We did do a little video. I think you may have seen that already, so I'm going to skip over that this evening. In the middle school, we're also embarking into the world of real-world learning. We have a couple of things going on, but I know that you've heard of the Generation Citizen project that was done. It was started through a pilot project from Jeff Rifka, who applied for a BWEF grant, and it is running again this year. Last year, it was very successful. We had groups of students that presented at the State House, and they did very well in the competition. They were actually competing against high school students from other districts. Last year, the topics that they chose were related to school safety and mental health issues, and they brought some great information into the district and into the schools. This year coming up, they're focused on substance abuse and vaping and issues like that. So the issues are student generated. Last year it was right after the Parkland school shooting, so that's where a lot of those topics came from. They were very relevant to students at the time. So we're looking forward to that starting up again in the spring, and again they'll be going to the State House. And this is connected to their social studies curriculum. So again, we're embedding real world learning right into the curriculum rather than just an extracurricular type of activity. At the high school, I'm sure you've seen in the newspaper our partnership with Save the Bay and Save Bristol Harbor. It's been very successful. It's been going on for a number of years, and this also is embedded into our marine science course so that every year students get this experience. Several times throughout the year, they're out in our local waterways testing water quality and cleaning up pollution, as you can see in this picture. So it's a wonderful experience for our students, and we're trying to grow the number of opportunities that we have across all school levels. And we're currently involved with a new project that the high school is going to tell you more about that kind of broadens our access to experts in the field who can help us incorporate real-world learning into more of our curriculum. And I will turn it over to Maureen and Wayne.
Good evening, and thank you for having Wayne and I this evening to speak to you about what's happening at the high school regarding the Digital Promise and the Chan Zuckerberg initiative of Real World Learning and Challenge. Bristol Warren Regional School District was named a core district in the Digital Promise, League of Innovative Schools, and the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative Real World Challenge Collaborative. We are one of 6 districts throughout the United States that were invited and are part of this initiative. The goal is to improve school and community partners' ability to identify, implement, and sustain meaningful partnerships that provide in and out of school learning opportunities and prepare our students for college and possibly career. So what we had to do was, that's the overall initiative, but we had to define what we thought real-world learning was here at Mount Hope High School. And Wayne and I didn't feel it was a statement or a vision that the two of us thought of. So we looked to our teachers and our community here at Mount Hope High School, and we sent out a survey. And in that survey, we asked, what are teachers doing in the classroom that's real world learning? And then what do they feel real world learning looks like at Mount Hope High School? We then, at the bottom of the survey, asked for teachers to be part of a after-school collaborative, where we could then take the data that we received from the survey and come up with a vision of what Mount Hope High School thought was real world learning. Approximately 12 people came to our after-school meeting. I don't think we had snacks, so we probably lost a few. But we divided into two groups, and both groups looked at the research, looked at the data, and we came up with two different statements. We then came together, and we found that we had very similar statements. Maybe a couple words were off, so all 12 of us then developed this particular vision statement for Mount Hope High School. That real-world learning provides all students opportunities to connect and apply learning beyond the classroom in meaningful and authentic ways while engaging with experts in the field. We then took this vision statement, and again, we didn't want the 12 of us to make the decision, so we shared it with our colleagues and asked for their input. And then we did receive the feedback where pretty much the whole entire community of our teachers did approve it. And we adopted this particular vision as to what we feel real-world learning is at Mount Hope High School. So now I'll let Wayne talk about the next steps.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the platform that we used as part of the work that we've been doing with the Zuckerberg Foundation and Digital Promise. So the first part of the platform is something called the roadmap, and this is where it begins for teachers. They call it the roadmap because we're saying that the real-world learning opportunities are destinations. So teachers will select or create a real-world learning experience for our students using the roadmap. So maybe you can't see it all that great, but that's the roadmap. So it just identifies different ways that we can engage our students in real-world learning. That top right is internships, and so one of the things that we wanted to dispel that the only way to have a real-world learning experience was through an internship. There are many other ways that we can accomplish that. So we were happy when we helped create the roadmap that there wasn't just a singular focus on internships. There's other ways that students can have real-world learning experiences. So that's kind of what the roadmap looks like. You can see why we call it a roadmap. So I just clicked on when a teacher decides that they want to try one of these, we always give them why. Why do we want to have an in-school guest speaker, right? So they spark student curiosity and connections by inviting guest speakers into your classroom. Bringing in a guest speaker is a high-impact way to give your students the opportunity to learn about different education and career paths. So what we want to do is fill in the why. So why is it that we're going to have an in-school guest speaker? There's also virtual guest speakers, which we'll talk about in a minute. So we want to give the teachers the why as well. And you'll see when I talk about my first go-around with this, which was successful but could have been better, kind of how that all came about. So the nice part of what we helped create is I've chosen one real-world learning opportunity, and then we have a whole planning set up for our teachers. So look ahead, what's the goal, why do you want to do this, and there's a checklist that they can click on that helps them go through that process. All right, you figured out why, connect. Who are you going to connect with? And again, there's checklists along the way, so teachers aren't left to their own devices to try to figure out how am I going to make this happen. They just go into the planning section and follow it 1 through 6. So we've done all of the pre-work for them, so they're not trying to gather information or find their own connections individually. So the first platform well, the second one after the roadmap, which is where we'll actually make some connections, is called NEPRIS. And so NEPRIS is a national database of companies / individuals who are willing to provide our students with real-world learning opportunities. So this is a copy of my NEPRIS dashboard, so you can see some of the things that we can do that they have. They give us every week. I get an email, here are some upcoming industry chats. So if there's an industry chat that has something to do with one of my classrooms, I can just ask to attend that chat, and I just sit there and my class gets to listen to those companies discuss whatever that topic is. And so we're just kind of a fly on the wall, being able to hear about that topic. There are video libraries, so my video of my session that I ran is now in the video library. So any session that gets done gets automatically videotaped. They edit it, so we don't have to do any of that work, and then they put it in the video library. And then what I want to talk about next is that creating a session request. So Maureen and I both have gone through that process, so that's what we kind of wanted to focus on. So we can go in, I said, hey, I've got a group of Algebra 1 students, they're all true freshmen, and every day as a math teacher, I get asked, Mr. Lima, when am I ever going to use this, and why do I have to know any of this? What am I going to do with it? So for me, that was the best part of our session, is those answers for this topic were answered by not me, the math teacher standing in front of them. So this was kind of what my discussion was about. So we had a video conference with a gentleman who's an engineer who works for the Anheuser-Busch company, InBev. His portion is they just make the lids of the cans for soda cans. We do Coke, Pepsi, all the lids for the cans. That's what his company does, or that's what his plant makes. So what I wanted to do is show you from our Common Core state standards, this isn't just something that hey, let's go find something, right? So part of what our students have to do is create equations in 2 or more variables to represent relationships between quantities, graph these equations on a coordinate axis with labels and scales, and answer questions based on what they've done. And so that screenshot right there is what he actually gave us. So what he was talking to us about was that he has to play around with the thickness of the can, how thick that lid is going to be, and the thickness leads to how much pressure that can hold. So he gave us that table of values and gave us the graph, and then the whole rest of the session was talking about how he creates that line of best fit. And then how does he use that line of best fit? He said, he might have a company that says, we need it to be able to withstand this amount of pressure. So then he just plugs it into the equation he wrote and says, well, this is the thickness that I need to make your lid for. And there were other examples, but I chose that one because in our classes, we give them tables of values, we ask them to graph it, we ask them to draw in the line of best fit, and we ask them to write the equation of best fit, and then we ask them to answer questions on it. So it was 100% exactly the things that we've asked our students to do, but it wasn't me, Mr. Lima, in front of them, the math teacher, telling them. It was a gentleman, Mr. Dane Rogers, who lives in Oklahoma, telling them that this is what I do in my company when I work for Anheuser-Busch. It meant a little bit more to them than me discussing it. And so one of the things that started off I was a little nervous about, but he gave a great answer. One of my students very politely asked the question, do they pay well? Polite way of asking the question. They didn't at least say, how much do you make? Do they pay well? And the nice thing was that he was brutally honest and said, yep, they pay me $100,000 a year, and I get bonuses. So after the conversation happened and we ended our session, I talked to them and said, hey, by the way, Oklahoma, different cost of living, it's a little bit more than $100,000. And so one of the things I said is, look, if I walked into class the first day we were doing this, and I said, hey guys, you want to make $100,000? Learn how to do this. How many of you would have said, oh, Mr. Lima's telling the truth now. Or would you have said, okay, Mr. Lima, you're just telling us that. It doesn't resonate when I say it, but when that gentleman says it, it means something. And so they kind of really got from the expert in the field that, oh my gosh, there is a place where I could find a line of best fit and I could make money if I learn how to do this. So that was a positive that came out of, not my favorite question, but, so from my experience, which went well, but we figured out things could have gone better, Maureen and I had some conversations, and then hers came up second, so I'm going to let her kind of speak to you of our conversations and how hers was better than mine.
Well, I wouldn't say it's better, it was just a different experience. So again, Wayne and I sat down and I said, okay, give me the good, the bad, the ugly. And through Wayne's feedback, he told me about that student's question. Again, another little mini lesson came out of that question and gave the students a real world learning example. But that prompted me to first go and review with my students about proper expectations and etiquette when you have a guest speaker or when you are doing a virtual tour or a virtual Skype conversation with an expert or with a professional. The next thing that prompted is, okay, Wayne, again, remember, Wayne had 9th graders. I have juniors and seniors, and it is a business management class. Most of the students in my class are on the marketing pathway and are in DECA. I do, however, have a few that are not part of that and took the class as an elective. And throughout the year, they'll say, well, Mrs. Gauthier, I'm not going into business. I want to be a nurse. Or Mrs. Gauthier, I want to be a doctor. And my comment to them is always, you need to know the business world. You need to know how to sell yourself and sell your business. You can't be a doctor. You need patience. So you need to sell your practice. So again, as Wayne, my expert, validated that. I then decided to do an activity in the classroom, and I had the students come up with different questions. My Skype conversation was going to be on creating or developing a business plan. My students in this class are currently working on the Lieutenant Governor's Real World Challenge. Last year we did have a student out of 55 applications or submissions. They chose the top 5. One of our students here at Mount Hope High School was chosen as one of the top 5 and then finished number 4 and received a $1,000 scholarship. So this year the students are doing it once again. So one of the questions that the students were having trouble with was the marketing analysis as well as product profit and reliability. So I then had them come up with questions regarding each of those topics that the expert was going to discuss, as well as a general question that you could ask this expert. We then put them all on a Google Sheet, and then I broke the kids into groups of 2, and then they just kind of started looking at which questions were very similar, and then we divided them up, and the day of the session, I gave each child a question. So now I'm prepared. There will be no quiet time. Everybody will at least ask a question, or a few students will ask a question. Well, it came time for the session. I think the speaker or the expert did a great job with making the students feel comfortable. At first I looked at it and he was in a Hawaiian shirt and he was in his kitchen. So he wasn't in a suit and he wasn't at his desk. And the entire conversation with the kids, he related it to their level. He basically talked about marketing themselves and how you can market yourself for whatever job you're going for, or market yourself for your school that you're applying for. He gave an example that if you were going to graduate with a chemical engineering degree and you're being interviewed for a job in the chemical engineering field, the first thing you should not say is, I'd just like to let you know, or if the person says to you, tell me about yourself. Well, I have a chemical engineering degree. He said, of course you do. You wouldn't be applying or interviewing for that position if you didn't have that degree. He said, so you have to make yourself stand out, out away from the others that are interviewing for that position. Dr. Malosky is from Cincinnati. He has a lot of degrees. He has 4 degrees from UConn, and he has an undergrad from Lehigh University. He helps Fortune 500 companies start up their businesses, and he's a liaison to many businesses and is a CEO on many different companies. The one thing that came out of this whole entire session is the kids never used any of those questions that we prepared. And it was a good thing. The kids were so engaged, even more than I thought they would be. And what they did is they came up with questions that were asking to elaborate on what he had already said, or even came up with questions to make him continue on with the topic they were talking about. I couldn't have been more proud of how the whole session went and how proud I was of the students. But then after, I was talking to Wayne and I said, we need to get feedback from the students. I need to know what they think. How did they think it went? So that's another thing that we learned. And we came up with a Google form. And I sent it to all my students and I got feedback from the students. We also used that data, and during an ILP, ILP session, and a PLT session as well as you, right? Shared it with our students, with our teachers. And that provided Jody McPherson, one of my business teachers, to then want to do the exact same thing. She is one of the teachers that is part of our little cohort in the Real World Challenge. So she was asked, she asked the Chan Zuckerberg liaison if she could do a session like this. And NEPRIS only allows, they have a license, so they only allow a few of us, and only Wayne and I have the license to go on to this program. Because Joanne wanted one, as well as Caitlin Booth. They had to come up with what was their session going to be about, how does it relate to the curriculum that they are teaching in the classroom, and how will the students benefit from that particular session. Both of those educators were given passwords that they were able to now use the account as well. So we here at Mount Hope High School have 4 teachers that are able to use the NEPRIS account. Some of the students' feedback that I received was the Skype call with the industry partner reinforced the content. I gained the perspective of an expert in the field. Makes learning more interesting. We all now have someone to look up to in the industry and connect with if we have future questions. Which that one, I've already had 4 students ask me for his email. He did give permission and told the students at the end of the Skype call that they could reach out anytime. One student is in the marketing and advertising class. And Mr. Latessa's class right now is working with Ms. Senna on the Sale Bristol Warren and promoting that, and also looking for donations through community partners, family members within the community and within the state. The student came to me today and he has questions regarding the project that they're working on and promoting that Sale Bristol Warren that he wants to reach out and ask Dr. Malosky. So he does have the email. I told him he has to share with me prior to sending it. But again, that's another extension of that Skype call that we had. Another student said, much better experience to hear it from someone in the actual business career. And now there is a purpose to what I'm learning in class. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. So there's only 4 right now that have the license to use it?
So originally only Wayne and I were given the ability to log in and have accounts. So Donna Ray is our liaison with the Digital Promise, and Ms. McPherson and Ms. Booth both reached out to her and explained that they would like to do this. And because they had reasons and connected to the curriculum, they were given and granted, so I guess they gave us the license of 4.
So my other question, one of my other questions is, so the kids that are at risk, that aren't college ready, is this a tool that we can roll out to those classrooms, and what is the plan to roll those out, I guess?
So that first part, the roadmap, that's accessible to everyone.
Oh, so everyone has it?
The roadmap part is accessible to everybody.
Okay.
The NEPRS part is right now. Understand, we all just started this year, so it's kind of like we're in the feeling this out phase and trying to get it to work well.
Yeah.
And then the idea is in the future to have more teachers have access. But the roadmap part, everyone has access to, so that planning and that step-by-step, everybody can follow those
So for the
steps.
roadmap, is everybody trained? Is everybody using it? Or?
Eventually, yes, but again, so we've kept it to a small group just to iron out all of the kinks and kind of get it to work where it's functional and it's easy for everybody to use. And once at the end of this year, that's kind of what that next phase is. Okay, let's lock it in, we've got it the way we want it, or we still have to make some tweaks, and then once it's locked in and it's done, then we'll phase it in so everybody, all teachers will have access to it.
And now, is there going to be a roadmap coordinator that's going to coordinate like this the rollout, as well as kind of troubleshooting the questions? And
We're the 2 lead teachers right now for grant, so I guess.
but
I guess
you also have other tasks to do. So I just want to make sure that when we,
I would assume we would use a PD time and use other, use some of the time built into the schedule for us to go in and kind of explain how to use everything. That would be
sorry. And then my last, one of my other questions is,
We also want to let you know Shayna Bloom is also involved, and she is our career work-based learning. Here you go.
but I'm sorry, what is she?
She's the work-based learning coordinator that we've hired through the Perkins Grant. So it's to help the students in our career and technical education pathways develop partnerships with businesses so that they can go on internships and things like that.
So she would,
She's part-time, and that's part of her role, but she's been involved with this because this is another way for us to connect with businesses to provide opportunities for our students. And just a quick follow-up to your question, we have students in our PASS program.
I'm not sure what that is.
PASS program is a support program for students who are more than a year behind in their graduation requirements. And so they go to school for part of the day, and then they are involved in internships and understanding what it is to be ready for a career upon graduation.
Okay, and then my last question, sorry, is what is the cost to the district? And as we increase those licenses, will that cost increase, or how?
There's no cost.
It's a grant? So if we continue using it, how long is that grant for?
So I think what's going to happen, so the NEPRS has been, correct me if I'm wrong, the NEPRS is nationwide, and that is being paid through the grant. What Wayne will be discussing shortly is the community share. That's going to bring it to the regional area, to Rhode Island, Bristol, Warren, where all of us can get on that. And Shayna is a big part of our community share, where she will be connecting with the business partners and having them sign up. So again, when Wayne and I talked about after our sessions with each of the experts, another thing that we have found that we need to do is contact those 2 experts and any experts that we have going forward, but we need them to give us some feedback as to what are they getting out of this. Because that's going to help Shayna or any of us in this room promote our community share and why others in the community and business partners need to be involved with us and our students, and how they can give back to the students, but what do they get in as well.
Right, okay, thank you.
So I don't know if that helps.
No, it does, thank you.
Before we move on, did anybody else on the committee have any questions about this piece? John?
Yes. Thank you so much for coming. Nice to see you guys here. When I was working with you folks back in the 99 through 04 here at the high school, I always said that I think that one of the easiest ways to Wayne especially give the answer, and to you, Maureen, also, to the kids who are saying, well, why do I need this? Is to bring in Mount Hope graduates who are successful in their fields and have assemblies and have these kids share how it all happened and where they are today and what they earn and what their businesses look like. And I think it would make everything so much easier.
And that's when we start to talk about community share,
Yes.
we'll hit that.
Right. Right. And so please keep going with this. This is a wonderful program. Thank you.
Before you go, I actually just have a question. If nobody else on the committee has any before I just want to understand, sort of process-wise, is NEPRIS, you said that it's something that's nationwide. Is that something that's only available to the school districts that have that are part of the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative?
No, so it's for us, we have access to it through this, but there are others. It was originally created in Arizona, so there are school districts in Arizona that have access to it. But for us in our area, we received access to it through this grant. But I think there is some more of the community share, because I think we want to make sure you guys understand that nationally is NEPRIS, community share is local, because we got a lot of great community leaders here that we want to be able to tap into. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that it's not just going to be NEPRIS, that, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure.
I'm actually just trying to understand the way
Yeah,
everything
okay.
works together. I don't,
Yep.
and so was the Chan Zuckerberg grant, was that something that was prescriptive and said, this is what you're going to do with it, or was it money that we chose what to do with the money?
So it's been a quick year. We received the grant last June. We applied last May, received it in June, and started working on this project in July. The roadmap actually came out in November. And it was through different iterations, but we meeting with administrators, teachers, community members. They did their research on what are people looking for, and they came up with the visual model in November, and then again went back to the teachers, site-based management, building principles to say, is this something that you could use? From that, then they started really outreaching to partners like Community Share and NEPRIS to say, here's a tool, what do you guys think about it? So you guys have almost bi-weekly conversations with monthly?
Yeah, with them. She and I have daily conversations.
So we have, I meet with, I have a conference call with Digital Promise once a month. I think 2 weeks later they have it. So I know they have 2 phone calls a month with the local districts, and always getting our feedback of what works. So each month the tools kind of change based on the feedback, especially from the teachers. So it's not prescriptive of how we use it. It's just, this is really at the alpha phase. And so any feedback and action research that our teachers are doing, they keep on modifying the project in the product based on their feedback. So it could look totally different in September, but it's been a nice process on always from the ground level and the classroom level, and they keep on shaping it. So it's not prescriptive whatsoever.
So thank you for that. And I guess I just want to make sure I understand though. The things that are being developed and changed, is that, you know, the roadmap and the planning tool and NEPRIS and community share, all of those are being modified?
Yes.
Based on feedback?
Yep.
Okay. So that, and a platform like, are they personalized for our district, or is the feedback that's coming in from everywhere that's using these things modified?
They keep on modifying based on the feedback. So Community Share is a product that's probably 3 or 4 years old, and they're working directly with the programmers to reshape that software and the tool for our districts.
So we have something that looks different than, say, a district in, Kansas that's using these tools?
With community share would be the local partners who are involved in that, but the platform would be the same. Yeah.
And was this when we received the grant, was there like a menu of potential tools that we could use, and then we chose to use these tools, or were these the tools that were there and we decided whether or not to use them?
So Digital Promise had about 25, 30 tools. They researched, they brought it forward, say, here are possible partners, what's your feedback, which avenue, what road should we go down? So again, it wasn't prescriptive, and it was from voices from the field to actually choose the product.
And did all of the districts that participate in Digital Promise have to end up with the same tool, or was it?
We decided on one.
Collectively?
Yes.
And is it just those 6 districts?
There's 6 core districts that are doing the work that Wayne and Maureen are doing, and then there's 10 districts who are watching the work and kind of, again, looking at the research and then giving some feedback.
Thank you very much. Ms. McBride?
Doesn't all of this stem from the, and I'm going to say it wrong because I get the acronyms wrong, the Innovative Schools?
The League of Innovative Schools.
That you pursued a couple of years, it's been a couple of years that we've been involved with them and visiting with them, so did they pick up any of the grant, or how did we get from the League of Innovative Schools to here?
So we applied to be part of this challenge, and we were accepted as one of 6 schools. I think they're actually coming out for a site visit in 2 weeks, a couple weeks. So they've been one visit already, conference calls, and they'll be back in May to see, again, hear from the voices from the field and talk to our students and see this product in action. So very hands-on.
And so one of the things you'll see in a later slide, because the question is that really it's only 3 or 4 of us that can do it on the national level, we're going to set something up on the school website so that any teacher can access what we've done. So our sessions. So the community share, that's our local database of companies and individuals who are willing to provide our students with real-world learning opportunities. So this was part of something that we did with some of those companies, so that's why that line is there. Hopefully you'll want to be part of the share. So I apologize for the strange Bitmoji, but a few years ago when this whole tech thing came over, everybody said you have to have a Bitmoji. So there it is. So that's kind of what the community share looks like. It's very similar in terms of NEPRS, that these are all from the roadmap. You choose which destination you want. I put one up there for my pre-calculus class of just saying, hey, we do a lot of work in trigonometry. Is there a surveyor out there locally that would be willing to come in and talk about how they use trigonometry in their field? And we have a task that we call a surveying common task. And it's okay, so here's a diagram and use trigonometry to solve this. But if a surveyor came out and let us be part of a project or kind of watch a project happen, it's a little bit more meaningful than again, Mr. Lima, the math teacher, saying, here, let's talk about how to use trigonometry. So there it's called a share. So I put this share out there, and then hopefully as some businesses will kind of add into the community share or join community share, they'll see mine and say, hey, I want to work with Mr. Lima, and I want to do that with his class, and then we'll have somebody physically come in the room, or we might go to their place of employment and do something there, whatever we can decide on or whatever we can agree to, but it's now someone physically right in this area. So that's the difference between those two. So this was just kind of more about the community share in terms of our next steps. There was one thing I wanted to say that I didn't with my presentation for NEPRS. During our PLT time, only my Algebra 1 class participated in that. During my PLT time, I kind of talked them through it, and now we've seen the video that they gave us. And so next year, we're having a real-world learning challenge of having our kids. We're going to give them that table, and we're gonna put it out there for all of our Algebra 1s as a contest, who can get closest to our experts' equation. So there will be a prize for whomever gets closest to what our expert got. So it's just a way of, we did it, we met in PLT, we used that time to say, how do we make this better for next year?
And again, as Wayne said, we talk every single day, multiple times. We had to say, okay, think about how are we going to share this with the community? And we went and spoke with Christine Francis, who is in charge of the Mount Hope High School website, and we came up with putting a real-world learning tab. Right now, it's just in the process of being created. The athletics will be out of that and be its own little tab. But partnerships is one of the tabs. So once we get some partners that are in the community share, we will be putting their profiles up there. We also have the community share, so there'll be a link to that as well. And then the last, we really felt it was important that you would all, the community members and students, would be able to see any of the real-world learning experiences that are happening here at Mount Hope High School. So Wayne's video that was done a couple weeks ago is going to be on that particular link. As well as I just before this meeting received notification that my session has already been created, and they do have a link to show the video of my session with our expert. So we'll have 2 videos in there, probably within a week, hopefully. So that's our plan. One thing I do want to say, because I know this is important for everybody in this room, NEPRIS has, when you look at Wayne's video, and I haven't seen mine yet, if a student's asking a question and they pan out to the students, they blur the students. So the privacy is there for our students, and no names are given. So I just wanted to let you know, we will be putting it up there, but as I saw from Wayne's video and the editing that was done by NEPRIS, it was, privacy has been.
I have another question. So for the community share, how do we go out, how to market it to other businesses? Like, we are surrounded by huge companies, Raytheon, Newark, General Dynamics. How do we go out there and get them to kind of invest in us?
So in this process, Shayna Bloom, who mentioned before, she's our broker, and that broker's job is to get people into the community share. So as she makes contacts with local companies, she's trying to get them on board and kind of explaining the whole process. So that's kind of how it's starting. Part of my previous meeting that we had, where the first time we kind of ran through this, I made a screencastify of that. We're going to place that up on the website as well. And so the idea is we're trying to just do some social media blast to get it out there, and then between social media and the web and our website, and then her cold calls, we're going to try to flood the market with requests.
But I think, can I say something? I think in addition to what Wayne has said, to answer your question, you know many different partners out there, so you have a better connection than we would or Shayna would. So we will work diligently to get the testimony from the 2 experts that we spoke with, and we will share it with you. But I really think it's about using the vision statement that we have shared with you this evening, as well as let partners know, or potential partners know, it's not just about an internship. They can help by having a virtual Skype. If you know somebody who would love to give a tour, and maybe we don't have the funding for a bus, what about a virtual tour? They could come into us and be a guest speaker. If they have a real problem that they could give to the teachers, and then they could be a mentor for that real world problem. There's different ways that they can help out. And that's the selling tool.
Absolutely. Now, have you ever thought about going to the town councils to kind of present it, to get it out to towns? And then, Mrs. Santa, it would be great if we could see like what her list is of the businesses and how she's progressed.